You look at others and think, wow, that's a lucky break, or why are they so lucky and I'm not? Recently in a group, a lady commented that she was lucky that she'd done something. And I pulled her up on it because I don't think she was lucky at all. I think she'd actually planned for the thing that happened, and therefore the luck was actually planning. Welcome to the FAQ Business Podcast for business owners, covering 4 pillars: actionable education, inspiring leaders, businesses like you, and thought leadership, where we challenge your thinking. Hosted by myself, Jane Tweedy, I'm founder and lead trainer of FAQ Business Training, where we want to avoid you getting ripped off or ripping yourself off. We'll feature an amazing diversity of guests with lots to educate and inspire you. Let's jump into today's episode of the FAQ Business Podcast. Thanks for coming back to season 2 of the FAQ Business Podcast. This season, we're going to mix it up a bit with guest slots alternating with individual sessions with myself, your host, Jane Tweedy from FAQ Business Training and host of the FAQ Business Podcast. In today's episode, we are focusing on thought leadership and the concept of luck. Now, of course, there is some luck in the world. Of course there is. So, you're walking along and a vehicle comes powering off the road for no reason and hits you on the footpath, okay? That is unlucky, right? And the flip side, it could have been lucky that it just missed you. That is luck. My partner watches Ridiculousness on TV with Rob Dyrdek. And it's a great example of the difference between luck and planning and stupidity, because people on there are often doing the most stupid things and they are really planning to have a disaster. They weren't unlucky that something happened to them, that they got their face smashed. They did something stupid which led to their face getting smashed. So I'd often look at luck and go, it's not luck at all. It's actually a planning thing, whether it's planned good or bad. So for instance, you could be in a hurricane zone and everyone around you is destroyed and you are safe. But is that luck or not? And we're going to look at the natural disaster issue in a little bit. The example that triggered this podcast was from a lady by the name of Elise Elliott from Pass the Salt. She's in a group with me and she commented in response to someone's comment. She had a situation recently where a person was unable to share their presentation, but luckily she had a copy of the presentation and could share it for her. So I pulled her up on it and I questioned her, was it luck or was it actually a conscious decision, because maybe that had happened before? Maybe someone else wasn't able to present, and by her having a copy of the presentation, it meant she could do it on their behalf. Or maybe she just likes to plan ahead. Maybe she likes to be preventative. So luck is something that we often have power over. It is something often within our control. Was luck caused because something has happened before and you had it as backup? So for instance, for me, the reason why I pulled up that specific example was because I know for me, when I'm doing presentations, I develop a presentation on my computer. It actually gets backed up currently to OneDrive, which is about to change because, oh my gosh, seriously, hate that system. But anyway, it backs up. So theoretically, I have a backup somewhere in the cloud if I could access and find it. But what I always make sure I do with presentations, particularly ones that are really critical and I really want to look like I'm doing the right thing, is I make sure that I send them to my Google Drive or to my Gmail account, so that way, if I have any issues with my laptop, it freezes or has a problem, I can go to a backup laptop, which is sitting there on, or I can use my phone to send that presentation to someone else, just like she had that presentation at the ready. That is not luck. That is forethought. That is planning. That is making sure I don't look bad when I haven't got my slide pack to present. What are you doing when it comes to luck? Even things like lotto. Obviously, there's a minuscule chance that you're going to win lotto, that you're going to win Powerball. So yes, there's a huge amount of luck plays into it. But the first step of it is that, did you have a ticket? You cannot win lotto if you do not have a ticket. So there's no luck in that part of it. You have to be in it to win it, as they say. So luck is a thing, but it's also not a thing. If I don't buy a ticket, I can't have a chance at having some luck to win the prize. The other thing that some people do is they play the odds. So they go, this particular ball has come out, 100 times, 100 times, 100 times, but this one's only come out 20 times. Therefore, odds are there should be no reason why that ball comes out any less on average than the others. Therefore, that ball has got to come up more times in the future. So they therefore potentially go and put their money on that. Of course, the problem is every single time that ball has the same chance as every other ball of coming out. It doesn't really work that way. Therefore, I'm definitely not saying to play the odds on gambling and treat it as a planning exercise. Not saying that in the slightest. Disclaimer, we are not endorsing gambling in any stretch. We are just trying to show it as an example. Natural disasters. I used to live in New Zealand. One of the reasons for me leaving New Zealand was because of the earthquakes. If you are going to live on the shaky isles of Aotearoa, you are going to have experienced earthquakes. It is built on fault lines, multiple fault lines running right through the country. And when you lived in windy Wellington on top of a hill, you can guarantee you're going to get hit by 160k winds as well. So there's no luck involved in that. It's kind of lucky that I didn't experience worse earthquakes while I was there. If you choose to live in a place like New Zealand, it's not unlucky to have an earthquake. Okay? You're living in a shaky place. The same thing if you live in the Blue Mountains and with bushfires. The risk is there that you are going to experience a bushfire. But you can do things to improve your chance of surviving that bushfire. So, for instance, you may clear around your house and the surrounding property around your house. You may have some sprinkler system or something on your roof. These things are going to help you in the event of a fire. They will make you more likely to survive the fire, but it's a planning thing. It's not a luck thing. And if you want to avoid the bushfires altogether, of course, you don't live in the Blue Mountains to begin with. So you take away the risk. So obviously we can do risk assessments on everything. When I worked for the Earthquake Commission in New Zealand, hence why I do talk about things like risk a little bit, I do know a bit about it, we were investigating some things that had happened overseas to look at the way we were modelling our earthquakes and things in New Zealand and natural disasters. And one of the examples was from Florida. Florida has a lot of hurricanes. And there was an example which was just unbelievable. One property in Florida had 8 payouts for hurricane damage. 8! Now, again, this person's not unlucky. This person is living right in the middle, in the path of Hurricane Alley. That's not luck. And eventually the insurer made the call and went, sorry, we will not insure you anymore if you continue to live in this property. Here's our final payout. Please move somewhere else and move to somewhere safer. Because it's a certainty, as much as certainties can be, that this will happen again. Maybe not in their lifetime. Maybe they'd catch a lucky break and it won't happen again. But the reality is you are putting yourself in the path of danger. Danger will eventually happen. Looked at some examples here which should be easy for you to understand. But now let's switch to business, where you look at somebody and think, that business is lucky. That person has been lucky in business. But was it luck or was there something else behind it? So we're going to look at a number of different examples. What about the person that got that lucky break? They got that TV slot. Usually it's because of connections, somebody they know. So think about who you're connected with and maybe you can get an angle in somewhere. Keep an eye out. Sign up to Source Bottle. Make sure you're on their list so you can see what things are being asked for. Connect with journalists on LinkedIn or directly. There are ways and means of being that lucky break. And it's about taking those opportunities when they're presented, if they work for you at the time. What about a lucky break with an influencer? An influencer wearing your clothes or your jewelry or whatever it is that you have. Is it really lucky? Well, often, obviously, a lot of the things are paid endorsements. So you'll see hashtag ad or hashtag promoted or hashtag paid, something like that on their post. So maybe you're looking at a post thinking it was just a casual thing when really it wasn't. But how can you make it more likely to happen? Obviously, you can actually hire an influencer and do a paid promotion. But if you want a free one, maybe you do something along the lines of, when I say free, there's a cost here. You send them, they've had a baby, you send them a baby gift. And then hopefully they might show that baby gift. Now you're taking a big chance there. There is luck involved in that, but there's also some planning. If you hadn't sent them the item, there's no way they could have shown it, unless somebody had given it to them. Okay, so maybe you know somebody who knows them. Give that to them to give to the person. Therefore, it's even more likely to have success. But you might even just be commenting on their socials. So follow them, comment, like, get engaged, engage with them. And then you might be able to say to them, hey, I've got this really cute little teddy bear that you might like for your new son. There's ways and means around this to make the luck less about luck and more about planning. And remember, it's really key here. It is not luck when you're asking. Too many people are afraid to ask for what they want. When was the last time you reached out to somebody? You thought, I want this guest on my podcast, and you reached out to them. Well, I've done that, and I've reached out to random strangers and said, hey, would you like to be on my podcast? And they're like, yeah, sure. Because the thing is, what is the thing that they can do? What are they going to do? Say no? Maybe block you if you were really pesky? But in most cases, they're just going to say no. That's really not that big a deal. You've got to learn to handle rejection when you're in business. So if that's the worst that can happen, they say no, start asking for what you want. You never know when somebody might actually say yes. What about the luck of people finding you? You see other people and you go, oh God, they're just so lucky. They've just got, everyone's finding them. Everyone's commenting about them. No, they didn't start with luck. They started by offering a great service. They started by offering amazing products, people getting them and going, oh, I love this, and then sharing it, letting people know about them. They might have been networking. It might have been all their network group mentioning them and putting them out there. So make sure that you're doing these things, that you're networking, and I don't advocate fake, this person's amazing, highly recommend kind of networking. Don't advocate that at all. Be genuine in it. But networking, being online, if you're not putting yourself out there, nobody knows you exist. I had a lady who kept contacting me, and I was like, seriously, stop contacting me unless you're actually going to book a session and do something with me. But all she was doing was giving excuses. And you may have heard the whole saying that you can either get results or excuses, but you can't get both. And that's what she was doing, a lot of excuses. She was saying, nobody's, getting websites off me. And I'm like, why would they? Nobody knows you exist. So make sure that people can find you. It's not luck, it's planning, it's preparation, it's putting yourself out there. What about the luck of getting good clients over crappy or annoying problem clients? Check out my tea time tip about problem clients if you want to know more about that one. But understand your clients is a really key thing. If you know your clients inside out, you can attract the right clients and you repel the clients that don't work with you. So we make sure that we are putting out the right messaging, that we are developing our branding and things so that we get the right clients coming to us. Really make them understand who we are, what we're about, what we stand for. We'll attract the right people and repel those that really don't dig us. And that's okay, because not everyone has to love us. We just want our great clients to love us. Also, listen to your intuition. Our opening episode of season 2 was the wonderful Steve Curtis from the Head First Personal Safety. And he spoke about intuition and how it could save your life. But intuition is so important in business. It's about helping you choose that right client and listening to those little flags that are going off, those little red flags, and that intuition kicking in, going, this isn't the right customer. This is not the right supplier. This is not the right deal. So make sure you listen to your intuition, because when you start listening to your intuition, it's not like, oh, I was lucky I didn't go with that terrible client. Well, it wasn't luck. It was because you listened to that intuition. So again, although this was your subconscious kicking in, it's still planning. It's still not just pure luck. What about learning from your mistakes? Mistakes are things that we make, and I think of a mistake or a fail as a first attempt in learning. Fail. So your first attempt in learning. If you then do the same thing over again, maybe you repeat it a second time because maybe it was a fluke the first time. But if you do it a third, a fourth, a fifth, a sixth, a 10th time, okay, that's just stupidity. It's not being unlucky, it's stupidity. It's not learning from your mistakes. So make sure that we look at the things that we've done in the past and go, okay, that didn't work. Why didn't it work? Was it the wrong tactic? Was it the wrong execution? And really make sure we learn from our mistakes. Because if we start listening to our gut, listening to those things that we can do to fix our mistakes, we're going to start doing a lot better. So when you see that lucky person or that lucky business, understand they may have done a lot to become that lucky person or that lucky business. A lot of doing and planning may actually be going on in the background to make them appear lucky to the world. What are you going to do to make yourself more lucky? What planning can you put in place? What mistakes can you learn from? What about your intuition? What can you listen to make sure that luck is on your side in the future? Thank you for listening to today's episode of the FAQ Business Podcast. Available on all good podcast services. You can subscribe today via faqbusinesspodcast.com.au or directly on Apple iTunes, iHeartRadio, or Spotify. Subscribe, follow, share, and where able, review our podcast or leave us a comment on either YouTube or our blog page. Thanks for helping us to help you, the small to medium businesses who are growing and want to make a difference. Look forward to connecting with you again on the next episode of the FAQ Business Podcast.